I wasn't a monster. At least, that's what I thought. I was an ordinary man with an ordinary story. I had a job, friends, and, most importantly, a woman who truly loved me. She was the light that illuminated my darkest days. Inna. She didn't yell, didn't demand, didn't get upset over small things. She was patient, kind, gentle. She was home. I remember the first time I saw her. We were standing in line for coffee. She had lost her wallet and was nervously rummaging through her bag. I paid for her drink. She laughed, childlike, disarming, and said, "You look like a character from a cheap romantic comedy." We started talking, then dating, and 2 years later, living together. The first few years were beautiful. Inna supported me through everything. When I lost my job, when my father got sick, when I stopped believing in myself. She believed, too sincerely, too vulnerably, and I let myself relax. I got used to her love like it was air. Stopped noticing her small acts of care. Stopped admiring her. Stopped being afraid to lose her. And then Alina appeared. We worked together. She was everything Inna wasn't. Sharp-tongued, confident, attention-hungry. She had a way of making you feel wanted, even if you didn't believe it yourself. And I gave in. At first, harmless flirting. Then, talks in the hallway. Long late-night messages. And then, the first meeting, the first touch, the first lie to Inna. It didn't feel like love. It felt like a drug. Unknown, risky, tempting. I thought I was in control. That it was just an escape, a game, something temporary. I kept telling myself I wasn't doing anything truly wrong. That I still loved Inna. That with Alina, it was just emotional distraction. I was lying. To her. To myself. But worst of all, to Inna. She felt it. I saw how her gaze changed when I came home later than usual. How her hands trembled when I didn't answer her calls. She never asked directly. She waited. Hoped I'd explain. But I stayed silent. Like a coward. Like a traitor. I kept thinking, both doors are still open. I can still fix this. But time passed. I sank deeper. And the moment of truth came when I woke up in someone else's bed and saw dozens of missed calls from Inna. Among them, there was one short message. "You chose. I'm leaving." I rushed home. Ran like I could still save something. But she was already gone. The apartment was silent. She'd left her key on the kitchen table. And a note. I waited. I stayed silent. I believed. But I have no strength left. I can never be with someone who chose another's arms over mine. You didn't just betray me. You betrayed everything we built. Goodbye. And that's when it hit me. I didn't just cheat. I lost what mattered most. After she left, life lost its shape. The apartment that just yesterday felt warm. The scent of her perfume, her favorite mug in the kitchen, suddenly turned into a museum of lost happiness. I didn't touch her things. I couldn't. It was better to feel pain than to admit that everything was truly over. Every little detail reminded me of her. Her toothbrush next to mine, her scarf on the hook, her favorite Spotify playlist she used to turn on while cleaning. Alina, she stayed in my life. But instead of attraction, I felt nothing but disgust. Toward her, toward myself, toward the man I had become. She kept texting, calling, writing things about us, about a new chapter, about how now we can finally be together for real. And me? I read her messages and realized, I didn't want this. I never had. It was an escape, a mistake, an attempt to run from routine, and I had paid far too high a price for it. One evening, I did meet up with Alina. She smiled, tried to kiss me, but I pulled away. I told her it was over. She got angry, started yelling, calling me a coward, a liar, said I had used her. Maybe she was right, but I couldn't anymore. I didn't want to live in that lie. I left. Those days afterward, I wish I could say I started to change, that I pulled myself together. But no, I drank. A lot. I would sit in the kitchen for hours, staring at the ceiling. Sometimes I'd search for her face in old photos, on social media, or in the crowd. I would write her, short, scattered, hopeful messages. How are you? Can I explain? I just want to hear your voice. She stayed silent. And that silence hit harder than any scream ever could. A few weeks later, I found out she had moved away. Changed cities, changed jobs, started a new life. Without me. And that's when it sank in. There were no more chances. I started going to therapy. Not right away. Not with hope. Just because there was nowhere else left to fall. During one of the sessions, I said, I cheated on her. And I don't even know why. The therapist replied, you didn't betray her. You betrayed yourself because your true self wanted something completely different. That phrase stuck in my head. From that day on, I started searching for the answer. Who I was, who I had become, and why. I realized that Inna wasn't just a woman I loved. She was my mirror, my support, my home. And I had burned that home down with my own hands. I began writing. Journals, memories, letters to her, ones I never sent. I tried to piece everything together. When exactly had I started to disappear from that relationship? Why hadn't I spoken up earlier? Why had I chosen lies instead of simply saying, I'm struggling, I'm scared, I'm missing something? To cheat, that's easy. To realize what you've done, painful. To live with it, even more so. And the most painful part? She would never know how many nights I cried, clutching her sweater. How many times I walked down her street, hoping to see even a glimpse of her. She only saw the fact, betrayal. But I now saw everything I had lost. I didn't just lose her. I lost myself, the man I was when I was with her. And now, there's only one thing left. To accept that. And to change. Because if I can't go back to fix the past, at least I won't betray the future. Almost a year had passed. 12 months during which I changed every single day. At first, because I simply couldn't go on living the way I had. Then, because I began to understand myself. And finally, because I realized, if I ever got the chance to truly love again, I had to be ready. I didn't fool myself with illusions that Inna would come back. She had disappeared from my life completely, blocked me everywhere. And I didn't try to break that silence. For the first time, I respected her right to peace. And I accepted she had every right not to forgive me. But I had to forgive myself. Not forget, not justify, but accept my mistake as part of my journey and draw a lesson from it, one I truly paid for. I returned to normal life. Started small, waking up on time, eating properly, reading, working out. Then I went back to the job I had once abandoned from exhaustion. I started helping others, not out of guilt, but because, for the first time in a long time, I felt strong enough to give something good to someone else. I began writing again. Not letters to her this time, but texts, reflections, stories. I wrote about a man who had done the worst and how he lived with it. I wrote what I felt, honestly, painfully, without embellishment. One day, my piece got published. I signed it anonymously, but the response shocked me. People wrote that they saw themselves in it, that the story was about them, that it made them think. And I realized, even pain can become something valuable. That even after the worst mistakes, one can live with dignity. If it's honest, if it's open, if you don't run away. One day, completely by chance, I saw her. It was in a small bookstore. She was standing by the psychology shelf, holding a new release in her hands. Her hair was shorter. She smiled at someone nearby, maybe a shop assistant. She looked happy. I stopped, but I didn't approach. I just looked. For the first time, without pain, without hope, without resentment, only with deep, quiet gratitude. For everything she gave me, for everything I lost, and for who I became because of that loss. She didn't see me, and I walked out. Outside, the sun was shining. There was a light breeze, and suddenly, I felt truly calm. Have I fully forgiven myself? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it's a lifelong process. But I no longer punish myself every day. I no longer run from it. I live. I know there are things you can never erase, but you can choose not to let them define you anymore. I cheated and lost what mattered most. But now I know exactly what never to betray again. Not another person. Not myself.